Good morning, Year 2, and welcome to Reading Skills for Monday, the 1st of February. Now, before we start to go through our new book today, I've got last week's words of the day for you. So they were snore, peep, scamper, gnaw, and venture. So have a quick think about what those words mean and maybe even see if you can pop those into a sentence. Now, as always, you can just say this, you do not need to write it down, but pause the screen and have a go at that now. First of all, then, we had snore. So when someone who is asleep snores, they make a loud noise each time they breathe. Grandad fell asleep and began to snore. The next word was peep. If you peep or peep at something, you have a quick look at it, often secretly and quietly. So Philip peeped through the window in the classroom door. The next word was scamper. So when people or small animals scamper somewhere, they move there very quickly with small, light steps. The chimpanzee scampered across the ground. And then we had gnaw. If people or animals gnaw on something or gnaw at it, they bite it repeatedly. The dog gnawed at the meaty bone. And finally, we had venture. If you venture somewhere, you go somewhere that might be dangerous. So Graham ventured across the busy playground. So well done to you if you remembered all of those words. So it's a very exciting day today because we are going to be starting a brand new book. Now, this is another one from our reading spine, okay, in Year 2. And the book is called Flat Stanley. Now, I know lots of you will probably have read this book before, which is absolutely wonderful. And I know some of you might even have it at home, which is fab. That means as we go through this book for the next couple of weeks, you can read along as well. Now, if you don't have it at home, I don't want you to worry because I was able to find a copy of it online, which I have attached to today's lesson. That will only be available if you are viewing this lesson on Teams. However, if you're viewing it on YouTube, you won't be able to see the Now, I know a lot of you like to have a physical copy of the book to read along rather than reading it on the screen, which is absolutely fine. I know some of you find it a little bit difficult to read it on the screen. So the reason why I found the book is and attached it for you is so that you could maybe even print it off and have your own copy of the book so that you can read along with us. If you can't do that, that's fine, because as always, I will still put the book up on the screen, so do not worry. Now, before we start, I just want you to have a little think about the front cover of the book. Now, if you've got this book at home, yours might have a slightly different front cover because there's a few different versions of the book. So you may have a different front cover on yours. But just looking at this front cover here, think to yourself, what kind of book do you think it is? Now, you might already know, but you might not know. And what do you think it's about? Have a think about what you can see on the cover. And then think, who might enjoy this book? Okay. So we're now going to have a little look at the blurb. So the blurb. Okay. Now I'm going to read the blurb to you. Now, as we often read the blurb in the classroom because we know that the blurb just gives us a little bit of an insight, or I could say a little bit of a peep of what the book is going to be about. Okay. So I'll read the blurb to you, and then you can see if your predictions were correct. See if you knew what the book was going to be about. Amazing things can happen when you are flat. Stanley Lambchop is a normal, healthy boy, but ever since a large notice board fell on him, he's only been half an inch thick. Stanley gets rolled up, sent in the post, flown like a kite, and helps catch 2 dangerous art thieves. He may be flat, but he's a hero. Okay? So think to yourself, were your predictions correct in what you said, that you thought the story might be about. And what's strange about this story, do you think? What's strange about it? Do you think this story is going to be a fiction story, or do you think it's going to be non-fiction? And finally, does the blurb now inspire you to want to read that book even more? I know it certainly inspires me to read it more. So let's have a go then. So if you are reading along at home because you've opened up the attachment I gave to you, we're just reading the very first page now. So the first section of chapter 1. So it's not all of chapter 1, just the first page. And it will look like this. As you can see, I've put it on the screen for you. However, if you don't have that, I will read it to you, or you can pause the screen and read it. And then we are going to be answering a RIE, which, as you know, is a retrieval question, an inference question, and then an explain question. So if you're reading along at home, pause the screen now and have a little read, and then we'll read it together. So chapter 1. And this chapter is called The Big Bulletin Board. Now, if you're not sure about what a bulletin board is, it's a bulletin is like a notice. Okay, we send out like a weekly bulletin type newsletter each week at school. So if we had a bulletin board at school, we'd maybe pin those up on the board. It's just a big notice board that you put notices on, or announcements on, or news, or things that are happening. Okay, so breakfast was ready. I will go wake the boys, Mrs. Lambchop said to her husband, George Lambchop. Just then, their younger son, Arthur, called from the bedroom he shared with his brother Stanley. Hey, come and look, hey! Mr. and Mrs. Lambchop were both very much in favour of politeness and careful speech. Hay is for horses, Arthur, not people, Mr. Lambchop said as they entered the bedroom. Try to remember that. Excuse me, Arthur said, but look. He pointed to Stanley's bed. Across it lay the enormous bulletin board that Mr. Lambchop had given the boys a Christmas ago, so they could pin up pictures and messages and maps. It had fallen during the night on top of Stanley. But Stanley was not hurt. In fact, he could still have been asleep if he had not been woken by his brother's shout. What's going on here? He called out cheerfully from beneath the enormous board. Mr. and Mrs. Lambchop hurried to lift it from the bed. Heavens, said Mrs. Lambchop. Gosh, said Arthur. Stanley's flat as a pancake, said Mr. Lambchop. Darndest thing I've ever seen. And I will just make this picture slightly bigger for you in case you want to have a look at it. I really like the illustrations in this book. So as you can see, Dad here has picked up the bulletin board, okay, and this must be Arthur, Stanley's brother, his mum, and you can see here's Stanley laying in the bed, and in the night this board has fallen on top of him and it has squashed him like a pancake. Okay then, so our RIE for today, our retrieval question. So as you know, this is going to be straight in the text. You just need to find it and pick it straight out. Why did Mrs. Lambchop decide to wake the boys up? Okay, there was a specific reason why she woke them up. So have a little reread or have another listen to the first page of chapter 1 if you need to. And when you're ready, you might write something along the lines of, Mrs. Lambchop woke the boys up because, you can tell me your answer. The inference question. How do you think the Lambchops felt when they saw the bulletin board had fallen on Stanley? Now, this one isn't as obvious in the text, okay? You have to look for clues. You have to use your previous knowledge. Maybe put yourself in their shoes. Imagine if you walked into someone in your family's room and you found that they'd been flattened by a big bulletin board. How would you feel? Okay. And you can write something along the lines of, when Mrs. Lambchop saw that the board had fallen on Stanley, she felt. You can tell me how she felt. And finally, explain. This is more your opinion, and then you need to give me your reasoning of why. And that is, do you feel sorry for Stanley? Okay, and if so, why? So for that one, you might put something along the lines of, I do feel sorry for Stanley because, or I don't feel sorry for Stanley because. Okay, so those are our 3 questions for today then. That is our why. Now, if you need to, go back and check the first page of that chapter. That is absolutely fine. Now, because we're on Teams now, something that's slightly different is that I have attached a document for you today, which you can click on and see this right, see these questions. Now, if you're on a laptop or if you're on a tablet or whatever you're viewing this on, you can actually type your answers straight onto that if you wanted to. As soon as you've done, you just click submit in the corner and then those answers come straight to me. Okay. Alternatively, you could print those off, write them, take a picture of that and submit your picture. Or finally, you could just write them on a piece of paper, just like you're used to doing, take a photo of that and submit that. So there's quite a few ways that you could do it. If you are still viewing this on YouTube, okay, you can do any of those things that I've just explained by going across to Teams and doing it that way, okay? Or if you're really struggling to get on there, onto Teams, you could just do it the way that we've been doing it before by sending me a picture via email, okay? But the best way for you to do it, the quickest way for you to get your feedback would be to do it straight on Teams, okay? So hopefully you find that a little bit easier because you can just type those answers straight on, okay? And I look forward to seeing all of those, okay? I'll see you again tomorrow for the next part of chapter 1, and I look forward to seeing you then. Goodbye, everyone.